Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. I am your host, Sarah Parker, and today we have, we have the one and only Romana back with us. Hello, Mike G.
Whip.
We were just,
Been a while, isn't it?
yeah, and it's such. I was just thinking when we were obviously trying to get your internet to work and stuff, and there's always technical issues that people don't see that listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Like literally every time I pressed up, I was just thinking, looking at you, I'm like, we were literally together last weekend, and it's almost like you're sitting with each other, but you're not. How cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we were going to try and do it in person, weren't we? But then time just got away with us.
Yeah. And also, it's probably a good opportunity actually to share about your life and your commitments in regards to what you do from the eval side of things. Because, of course, I got
Yeah.
essentially invited by yourself to do some urine testing. And I don't know if, all the listeners would know actually your position with Eval and actually who Eval is. So maybe we start with a bit of that, a bit of a shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yeah. So Eval's the company I work for that do blood testing. And I started off as a phlebotomist after randomly seeing them at Fit Expo in Poole,
Oh,
2022. I messaged them. I did know who Dave was, but I was still quite naive to the bodybuilding world. So I didn't quite understand who he was. Um, and yeah, he replied straight away. And before I knew it, I was on the phone to him and I had a job as a phlebotomist. Like literally never met. Did that for a few weeks and then we actually met at Fit Expo 2022. So I've been doing phlebotomy for them since July 2022. And then that involves also working expos, doing phlebotomy as well. But I think it was 2024. It might have been 20. No, I think it was 2024. PCA started doing their natural shows.
mm,
And obviously, they want to ensure that their competitors are natural. So, Eval were contracted to do the urine testing. So, we collect the samples and they get sent to King's College London for the urinalysis. So, yeah, we were doing that at the weekend, which is basically the competitors. Some of them will go for a polygraph as well, some of them will just have urine. And basically, you were escorting them backwards and forwards from having a piss, and I was decanting their urine. Yeah, didn't spill a drop,
yeah,
which
well.
I'm pretty proud of considering how clumsy I am. But I started doing a little bit of people management for them. I think it was 2023, just some of the local phlebotomists to Exeter. And then sort of since I've been off prep, I've been doing some more widespread management for the company. Yeah, as well as writing. Oh yeah, and I write blood reports for them as well. Jack
Yeah.
of all trades, master of none.
Well, this is the thing. Actually, so funny you just said that, saying I haven't heard that for ages. And when I had Stan on, which will go live before this one, he was actually saying, and I've put some stories and we've spoken about this. We might have landed on talking about it on the pod actually. With we're not meant to be, the thing is, you get these specialist things thrown around in the space and stuff. And he was like, we're almost a jack of all trades and people expect us to be, but actually it's like, well, these are our areas of speciality, as it were. So we're physique development coaches. Yourself, you're working for Eval. We have lanes, we have multiple lanes, but we have certified lanes that we stay in, and it's something that we see a lot, right, in the space where
Mm,
it's these, and this is what I would describe it as for people listening. It's like when you look at content, when you look at things, people and fitness influencers or people in the space, they're using your pain points. So if you have GI upset or problem with your period or whatever it is, they will coin in on that
yeah.
because it hooks you in, and then you automatically think perhaps this person's a specialist, or they say they're a specialist. And actually, when you delve into it, we've spoken about this over voice note, from your paramedic experience, over 20 years, and when you've actually been around specialists and experts and etc etc. I love how you said in a voice note the other day, they're always looking to upskill, they're always looking for more, so they're not going, I'm an expert in it. They don't have to blather on about it, they already had the certification, they're not needing to tell
Yeah.
everyone they're upskilling. And it's difficult, I would say. We could probably talk a bit about, when people, if people are listening, when they are looking for help in the space, I suppose, how do they know? It's quite hard.
I mean, Dave and I were actually having this conversation yesterday about, I think people throw around blood work analysis quite willy-nilly. And both Dave and myself, sorry, we don't class ourselves as blood work analysts. We don't diagnose. We look at patterns, we identify trends, and we advise based on what we see in front of us, regards to lab blood work and the individual information provided when we take the sample. But there are people out there that will actually say, I am a blood work analyst. And, I haven't gone through all of these people's profiles to actually look at what their credentials are. But just because you think you can read blood work, tell you what, it's not fucking easy. It is not easy. It's like I'm lucky I've got phone a friend in the form of Dave that I kind of go, I'm not sure about this one. Um, but the more I read around it and the more I do, the more it reminds me how intricate the human body is and how interlinked everything is. And anyone can look at some blood work and go, oh, your TPO is elevated. That must mean you've got problems with your thyroid. Well, no, actually, it can be a false elevation. It can actually mean nothing, but you cannot diagnose somebody just off blood work. It has to be a complete clinical picture, which is symptoms, blood work, assessment, conversations, further investigations if needed. But yeah, there are quite a lot of people that will just throw around, I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that. I think if somebody is, I don't know if I'm going to like tread on some toes here, but I'm very much a believer that if you are touting that you're an expert in something when it comes to, I don't know, whether you're an expert in GI, hormones, whatever, without a medical background, I feel you're on very dodgy ground without actual qualifications. Being a registered healthcare professional, I think you're on quite dodgy ground. And if you're going to these people, you kind of have to accept that maybe, yeah, it is a little bit of money in their pocket rather than their actual. I don't know. Like I say, it's kind of dodgy to say that sweeping statement. Um, but yeah, it's a clinical domain, and if you are out there and you've got problems with your GI, you've got problems with your hormones, there are private sector workers that are actually qualified, being able to be able to help you. It's just about actually being smart with where you're putting your money. And if somebody has no credentials to back up what they're saying, I'm not saying that everybody out there who's got any knowledge has to have a university degree or a medical qualification to know things, but I think when we're looking at specific areas of the body, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel a little bit, ooh.
Yeah, yeah, that's why, and again, you can tell by where you've just spoken about it, you're being authentic you're still not wanting to, we're not trying to slag people off here. We're not just trying to, it's almost
No.
bringing awareness to it. And a really good example,
Mm.
blood work for myself. So I actually got someone to read my blood work. I won't name names or whatever. And it was just an observation. So he actually did a video of analyzing my blood. So it got recommended by a friend, and I was like, cool. So it was like £150 for a review, and I thought, okay, £150 a fair amount of money here, but I'm gonna do it. You need to watch the YouTube to see Romana's face. Yeah, I was like, that's quite steep. Like, there's coaches that it's
I
a
get paid £6 to do a report.
yeah. And this was like, okay, so if I can learn from this person, if I can maybe upskill a bit, if I can learn more about my blood work, I'll use it as an education opportunity as well. So I thought, okay, pay the money. And I was like, oh, doing the bank transfer, like, oh God. But what happened was, and this is, a series of events here. So booked a call to go through it, and he didn't make the call. Booked a second call, didn't make the call. And then he was like, what would probably be better is if I just do you a video. So I was like, okay. Just do the video. Just do the video. I just want this done now. It's almost at that point. I get a little bit itchy feet, you see. So did the video, and he's reading the bloods, and then he clicks on a Google tab of something that he's essentially advising me on through my blood work using Google. So yeah, that's an example of things that do happen in the space. And yeah, wild because we're essentially we can hear through word of mouth, and this was word of mouth from a friend that recommended this person to advise me with blood work, and I just thought, yeah, this is the type of thing we are dealing with. There is going to be that essential, looking on Google, looking things up, asking a mate, asking another coach they know, and this type of stuff. Now, for sure, if you're a coach listening, if you've got friends that you trust in the space, learn from each other. Me and Romana learn from each other. That's a good thing. But just be careful because this is people's health that you're
Yeah,
dealing. It's a big thing, like you said there, Romana. Like really bad things happen in this space that you don't hear about.
yeah. I'd be really interested to see that video if you've still got it. I mean, what we do with Eval is, and we've sort of started doing it more recently, is I tend to write the reports and then Dave will proofread them. So we've got that kind of double layer of two people. I mean, it's not just because there are still areas that I'm not so familiar with. So Dave will kind of edit what I've written in some instances, and then I go back and read over it afterwards. So my morning job is before I start writing any reports, I read over the previous days to learn from them. It's a sort of CPD for my own registration to an extent, but it's also because when you're doing like 20 blood reports a day, it gets to a point where my fat fingers, my typos just get worse and worse. So if there is anyone out there that's got a couple of spelling mistakes between me and Dave, I think, yeah, spelling is not our forte. And the more tired I get, the more they occur. But it is something that is very crucial, I think, because when you are looking at multiple blood works in one day, fatigue sets in, but it's also making sure that the information we're providing to the customers is bang on point. And sometimes that does take a little bit of back and forth.
Mm. You raise a relevant point there, actually, with general coaching as well. Again, we can make mistakes sometimes as coaches. I remember when I first made it was like on a spreadsheet an error, and it wasn't anything very big, but I was like, I'm going to Matt, I'm having a meltdown. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a shit coach. And it's like, you've done one column in the wrong place. But, these things do happen as well. So it could be the client or the coach, whichever end you are and you're listening. Maybe you're a coach and a client, but there is human error. There are mistakes that we can make. And again, another sort of lesson that we can learn as coaches is to own the mistakes, but also be able to change our mind sometimes.
Yeah.
We get scared to, if we have this sort of belief system of maybe this works or this is the route or this is what I use with clients, don't be scared to challenge your own narrative as well, because we can become,
Yeah.
we sort of isolate ourselves in these pigeonholes of this works and I don't want to look outside of that. But almost sometimes it's about pressurizing ourselves to look outside of the box. And I think that's good with your role within Eval, because Dave will cause you to think outside the box as a person, and then we can evolve as coaches as well, can't we?
I can't remember what it was, but there was somebody's results where their estrogen was quite skewed in relation to their testosterone. And Dave said, oh, it's probably to do with X. And I wondered if it was actually to do with their compounds being faked. The big one at the moment is Masteron, is not always Masteron, or something like that. I can't remember. It might have been the other way around. They might have been using Primo, but actually it looked like it was Masteron or something like that. But I said that to Dave, and he was like, "Oh, that's a good point." So there is that back and forth. As far as mistakes, enough of my clients will probably know that the classic is when I do a setup and you spend so long staring at the setup and fiddling with it. And then I'm doing the introductory loom video and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's wrong. That's wrong. But I say to them, I was like, it gets to the point where you can't see for looking. And it's not until I actually go through it again on the loom that I'm like, yeah, you should be doing this rather than that. Sorry. But we are all human. And it's one thing the ambulance service taught me is It's about learning from your mistakes, not chastising yourself about them. And if you make a mistake and you learn from it, then it's not a mistake, it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we also grow as coaches within coaching more people, and
Yeah,
that's so true. And also as an athlete, it goes with the whole bodybuilding journey, right? Like you learn things throughout, and then you get to a point where it's like you look back and you think, bloody hell, over this period of time as a bodybuilder, we're absolutely at that point where bodybuilding as a principle is easy for us, so we do it autonomously. It doesn't make it actually easy as in and what we need to do, but all of those things generally speaking are fixed. And actually maybe we could talk about our own scenarios when we've had to adapt that as well, because again, with learning from mistakes, sometimes those mistakes are being so institutionalized by bodybuilding that actually if you had to miss a training session or something like this, I remember when I voice noted you not long ago, a good example is when Matt was going through a really anxious spot, and I voice noted you, and I was like, I'm really proud of myself. I haven't gone to the gym because I'm needed by Matt at home, and we have a bit of banter with it, of course.
yeah,
That was like an evolution in myself as a bodybuilder to go, I've actually prioritized something else aside from,
yeah,
so I can train the following day, right? And there's
yeah.
certain things, even that in itself, you learn from. You could probably sometimes be a better bodybuilder if you were less stressed about the institutionalization of what maybe could be a bit more flexible, if you know what I mean.
I mean, 2022 off season, I really learned quite a lot because I was getting, I didn't realize at the time, but my PTSD symptoms were building and anxiety was building, overwhelm was building, verbal shutdown was occurring, overwhelm was a state of constant being. And there were sessions that I missed, there were meals that I missed, and I still grew. And that next prep was when I qualified for the Olympia. And it kind of made me sit back and think, actually, it's okay sometimes to take the bodybuilding hat off. If being a bodybuilder in that precise moment, like you said, is going to cause you more stress than it is enjoyment, then sometimes you do just need to take the hat off. Like PCA weekend, I was meant to still be on my mini cut. And actually, Dan and I had decided the Thursday before I left that it was time to end the mini cut. I'd lost 20 pounds. Probably best to get into off season. But it was still like with work, I was so busy I couldn't do any meal prep. I managed to prep a little bit of Fridays and a little bit of Saturdays. And it was just a case of I've just got to do the best I can because we were staying in a hotel. So I didn't have anywhere to prep it. I was going early on the Friday, not getting back till late on the Sunday. There was no, it turned out there was a fridge in our room, but we didn't know that at the time. So it was just a case of like, right, okay, do what I can. So Sunday morning, I went to Tesco Express, microwave rice, salmon, avocado. And instead of having chicken meals, I had smoked salmon and avocado. And that was my meals for Sunday. And it didn't stress me out. I enjoyed the day because I wasn't focused on, my God, I've got to eat every 2 hours, which, as you could see, it was impossible when it's busy with people coming for testing all the time. So, yeah, sometimes you do need to just put that hat down for the good of your own mental well-being because you're not, if you're stressed and you're anxious and you're feeling terrible, it's not the optimal environment to train and eat and grow.
Yeah, yeah,
It might be more optimal for a dieting phase. If anyone else is like me, where when you get a bit stressed and anxious, you don't want to eat. So,
yeah.
but not for off season.
I definitely feel like I've experienced that more so at the suppressed appetite things. The more I've learned to be a bit more in tune into my body, it's almost like I can feel that suppression's coming. So there's certain things like actually on my menstrual cycle, I don't get cravings for like chocolate and things. I know that's something that's I often sometimes think, is that because we've been told we should crave chocolate or do we actually crave it? Because I can't imagine physiologically the body's like, I really need some chocolate. Anywho, that's just my own
It's
thought.
probably fat.
Yeah,
It's probably fat that your body's craving.
that's we've spoken about that post show as well, and it's like actually sometimes I get
Yeah,
suppression of appetite. I also get suppressed appetite sometimes around really hard training sessions. Like I'm just like
yeah.
you know, when it's
Well,
like,
that's there's a physiological reason for that. So when we're training, we have an upregulation of sympathetic nervous system, a downregulation of parasympathetic nervous system. And part of that process is it takes away blood from your stomach and puts it in your muscles. So if you've had a really hard training session, it takes a little while for your body to come out of that sympathetic upregulation. And it's also why people can sometimes vomit when they're training because their body's just gone, I can't deal with this food. What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's almost we over time start to learn, you know, what the appetite window is, how we want to do things, and actually structuring it. And you know, if you're coached and you're set macros or you've got a food plan or whatever, it's like actually sometimes, perhaps sometimes you can have a conversation with your coach to say, well, actually, you know, could I space these meals out a bit because actually it works better for me, or I'm a bit hungrier and like you are at breakfast, so could I actually have a bit more here and
Yeah.
move things around. Again, it's sometimes confidence as the athlete to sometimes go, would that be okay? Because you sort of think, well, I have to follow this to the letter. And there's a difference with saying, could I shift some things around in a day to not following the plan right? And I think we automatically think
Yeah.
it has to be this pristine. Because I used to like, I would eat exactly the same time every single day for years and years and years and years and years, off season prep, whatever it was. Whatever was happening, I remember, you know, even when my granddad was in hospital and unfortunately he was, you know, it was the inevitable thing was going to happen. I'd still like not miss a beat. You know, everything was done to the
Mm.
absolute letter. And when I look back, I think I probably could have relaxed a little bit more around this, you know, life-changing experience here. But I was so like, I won't be a good bodybuilder if I don't eat my meal too at X time and this type of stuff. And again, you become stressed, like you said, and actually that can have an impact on not only the enjoyment of the journey, but physiologically, physique wise, you know, maybe we're not
Yeah.
presenting the best we could if we're stressed by the pursuit.
I feel like, and I think we've touched on this before, there is an immense amount of pressure within the industry to be the optimal bodybuilder 90% or like 24/7. And it's not realistic.
It,
Like it's just not. Even as a pro and Olympian, you know, there are times Dan makes a joke about it. He's like, "You're the least optimal bodybuilder." I've taken my supplements 2 days in a row this week. 2 days.
now.
It's stuff like that. And it's not through want of not taking them. I just forget. I forget regularly. I forget more times than I remember. And like it's just, I mean, something that has kind of made me realize I need to stop forgetting was looking at my preliminary blood work results from yesterday, like that I sent off yesterday. But it's yeah, it's just something I even forgot my nighttime subs last night, which is that's rarer. I normally remember those, but it's kind of that symptom of how tired I was. I just forgot to take them, and then I slept even worse because yeah, just yeah,
We do say this, we are humans as well. I'll give you a good example outside of competitive bodybuilding as well. So we've got all ends of the spectrum covered here. So yesterday Matt and I went to the gym and he didn't train for like 3 days in a row. So 3 days fine. You know, he had to work two of those and we have a Tuesday off, as you know. So came to Thursday and we started training. He was like, I don't feel good. I actually feel back to when I didn't train for like a year because of the pollution and the anxieties and stuff. And he started almost having a bit of a meltdown and brought it back round. Anyway, so we were talking, and then he was like, I need to get back to doing cardio. I said I'd stick to cardio. You know, I haven't done it since we did the diet. I've let myself down and started almost going into a bit of a hole with it. And I was like, whoa,
spiraling.
yeah, hold on a minute here. So from going from, you know, a year ago, he wasn't training at all. He wasn't doing any cardio. He wasn't really even going for walks. So I was like, let's just bring this back to a bit of context here. So the only thing, and the reason I mentioned this, the only thing that he hasn't been able to do, because he's been so much busier with work and the anxieties are in the best place they've been, etc., etc., is 3 times 20 minutes of cardio a week. But people might listen and think, actually, you know, if you do have potential for anxieties and overwhelm, etc., one thing can go away or however we want to frame that, and suddenly you start to go, I'm a shit bodybuilder, I've let myself go, every I've put myself to the bottom, and I was like, whoa, let's just it's
Yeah,
3 times 20 minutes a week of cardio here. let's start with doing 20 minutes of cardio tomorrow. So a good example there of actually it doesn't mean you're not a good bodybuilder or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like the context sometimes because we sort of self-sabotage ourselves, don't we?
I've had a very similar conversation with Dan before I got on the podcast. He's had to, because there's two bros tomorrow, he's had to go down to Basildon tonight because the men are on early doors to do in person with two of his clients. And he's behind me with this GI upset that we both had. So he started to feel unwell before we went to Turkey. So what was that, beginning of September? We're now just at the beginning of October. It lasted about 6 weeks for me. So Dan should be coming to the end of it. But he's like, oh, feel really funny about training in a public gym. I feel like quite small. And I was like having to remind him, it's like, you might feel it, but I see you walking around at home wearing clothes that you've just you've not bought that long ago and they're tight. And it's not, he'll go, oh yeah, but my stomach's really distended. I'm not talking about your stomach. I'm talking about across your top line and your back. It's like your arms and your shoulders are filling t-shirts that they weren't filling before. And you're not like his abs are still there. He's still got feathering and vascularity in his legs. He isn't. One of the symptoms of this GI thing was massive, like not massive, but it's constant distension. So I think I said it to you, the insecurity of feeling like your stomach's out here and people thinking that you've kind of gone off on a binge or something. He hasn't, I hadn't. It's just the symptom of this stuff. If you just look at from the sort of chest up, he looks still really big, but it's the nature of the beast. As humans, we look at the and hyper focus on the negative of things. And it's like, it's funny because when it comes to my physique, I can shut the lid on that box and kind of go, I'm not going to think about that. Just not going to think about that. I'm not going to look. Dan's doing his thing, and he'll tell me if I'm going down the wrong track, and we'll course correct. So I'm quite good at compartmentalizing my physique. It gets harder in prep. I'm not going to lie, but it's everything else that I struggle with. Whereas Dan's very good at shutting the box on everything else, but not his physique.
It is though, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
well, almost balancing each other out as well. You know, I said just before we hit record that I've got my hamster cheeks from being on my menstrual cycle, and you know, I used to be like, oh, people are gonna look at me and think she's had a binge. What's going on? And you know, like I'd be so self-conscious, and then I had to call myself out on my own bullshit and think your hormones are adapting here. You're on a menstrual cycle. Stop being a dick. And you almost have to, say to yourself, you're just being silly here. But I then say to Matt, I'm like, I'm not really going to zone in on the scale weight for 4 days or whatever it is when the cycle
yeah,
comes. I'm not gonna do a check-in, even if it's scheduled, I'll push it back because I can do that. And I'm just not gonna zone in on what I look like in the gym as well, because I certainly notice that I feel like I almost look flatter but fatter. It's a bit of a weird space. Like it's like I can't yeah, it just looks different. Like you sort of look podgy. And that's just my own observation. And it's like it's like a water retention, but not like a water retention from other things. It's just a bit of a weird space. So I don't, go and look and start critiquing myself because I don't need to do that. And I think that's important, like you say, to be
yeah,
able to put the lid on a box if you know the reason. Now, if you even if you don't know the reason, so when you first started getting your GI discomfort, well, let's fact find here. Let's data.
yeah,
Let's actually put some rationale towards the physique response. And I've had this with multiple clients in so many different, contexts, from cycle to PED use to a personal life problem to loads of things, an inflammatory response. I mean, it's so common, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like, and so many different things factor into it. Like even stress will cause an inflammatory response.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I just like for me, it's lack of sleep.
yeah.
I get I get the same thing, like puffy. I think back to some of those podcasts we did when my stomach was playing up and I wasn't sleeping properly. I was getting like 4 hours a night, and you could just see my face going like this.
It's wild,
And
isn't it?
it like I just the thing that got me was that made it more difficult to put the lid on that box was how uncomfortable my midsection felt,
Cool.
because it felt like I'd just been pumped up with air the whole time. And you sat on the sofa and your stomach's out here and you're trying to get comfortable and you can't. And that does it didn't I wasn't like, oh my God, I look horrendous. It was more, oh my God, I feel so fucking uncomfortable. And like trying to train doing anything where your stomach's compressed, like lying ham curls, chest supported movements, was just really uncomfortable. Couldn't train abs either because that was just pointless. But it was odd because it didn't matter. I tried eating clean, I tried eating plain, I tried so many different things, and it just didn't matter. I was going to get bloated, I was going to get reflux, I was going to be uncomfortable. But the other option of not eating wasn't really the option either, because that's when your brain falls out your ears.
I do as well. I think that's a relevant point with, again, we're talking from, so Dan coaches you, I self-coach, I speak with you, I speak with Matt, like I've got almost these second eyes as it were, and I can
Yeah,
talk to you guys about things. So we're in a sort of fortunate position as well, where we have got experience and knowledge in the field and we've got personal anecdote, etc. But you can see if you're listening and there's, some new first timers that are listening and they're saying it's getting them through their prep. So shout out to you guys. But you
yeah,
can see why, as coaches, we do ask all these questions. So
yeah.
I think sometimes that can feel a bit overwhelming. I had to literally have a conversation with a client the other day, and I had to list just some very to the point questions. And I've coached her for a while now. I'm asking all of these questions very direct because I just need the answers. I'm not questioning you. These are the questions I
Yeah.
need from you in regards to what we're looking at. And this is sometimes as a coach, we have to do that. So I think that's a useful thing if you're listening, that it's not necessarily we're questioning you, we're not, just asking things for the sake of it. The physique, there's so much to it. There is so much to it. And of course the brain. But yeah, I feel like I could have probably I wish I'd been told a bit more that that's why we get asked so many things as the client, because sometimes it feels like you're being questioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I with Dan, I struggle with, he will explain things to the nth degree as if I'm a first timer. And it's a little bit triggering because my mum would always kind of talk down to me and over explain things that don't need to be. It's like, I'm quick, mum. I got it the first time. So it's kind of pattern matching to my childhood. And that's why I get a little bit, especially if I'm on prep, get a little bit bitey. It's like, please don't treat me like I'm a newbie.
Of course.
But that's a me problem, not a him problem.
Yeah.
Um, but it is hard sometimes to not get in your head a little bit when, and that's coming from somebody who's coached by the closest person to me, and I still, yeah, it still gets to me a little bit. It's like I can tell now as well when he's looking at me and I'm not responding in the way that he wants me to respond. And that's always interesting when you're in prep. Like peak week, the heat fucked me up. And I just was holding some water. I think there was some bits and bobs that we could have done differently the day before show because I got the water off. But yeah, it is a bit of a trying to listen to his process, but also knowing my body. Our big debate is salt. Because I'm like, I am a salt fiend. I need more salt. He's like, no, you don't. You don't need any more. I'm like, I do. I feel like shit. I need salt.
Yeah, like it, because even peak week we've landed on there, peak week in itself. I often, and I reference this to clients, I'm like, I know I'm asking you a lot, and I know that I'm giving you that there's like, right, okay, so I need you to just tweak this. So salt is a good example, right? So we're gonna just slightly eke your salt up. So we're gonna go to one extra pinch per meal or whatever it is. It's quite a lot to retain when you're dieted down, when you're in peak week, and actually, and I referenced this the other day with a client that's in peak week now. I was like, you actually often feel worse on peak week than in the prep. But on Instagram, peak week's this glorious, glorious thing.
So another thing Dan and I were talking about is there are certain clients out there that don't actually need peak.
Yes.
But again, there's this pressure, and it's kind of the similar, it goes in the same wave as going to everybody's shows, being there the night before, traveling for in-person check-ins. I don't have that many clients.
Mm.
And I've got one client competing abroad this year, and she was asking if I was going to be there. I was like, I can't afford it. I can't afford to travel abroad for my own shows the majority of the time, let alone for a client's. It's like I'm going to your UK show, but I can't come down the night before because Dan's away. He it's like dibs. He's got the earlier clients, so he had to go, and I've got to stay and look after the dogs. It's just it's life, and but there are unfortunately coaches that have done very well that can afford to do these things, and then the expectation on the sort of smaller coaches is to still provide that 100 clients level of service with traveling and being there, and it's just like I just can't.
Yeah.
It's like that would actually even the cost of a ticket to watch eats away at coaching funds. It's
Yeah.
part and parcel of being a coach,
Mm.
but it is hard. It's not easy.
Yeah. I do feel as well. It's you sometimes forget when you have a bit of time, like when we're out of season, say, and then we go back into the competitive season, like it's a lot from, and if there's coaches listening, we get paid to do this. This is our job, and we want to do this. This is not saying we don't want to do it, but remember, as a coach, like it's a lot when you are peaking people. It's a lot when you are increasing the contact, etc. And I think something we're good at reminding each other of. Again, we want to do this, guys. It's not saying we don't, but we have to look after ourselves to
Yeah,
also offer the best coaching service. And again, I think there's this pressure in the bodybuilding space that, well, I go to bed at 2 a.m. and I get up at 6 a.m. and I've got all these clients and I'm doing this and I'm flying here and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it's like, but there's going to come a point when you probably burn out, and is the personal life intact? Is their own physique development journey intact? And something we often try and promote for ourselves is that we are actively bodybuilding ourselves because we like to walk the walk, talk the talk. That's how our coaching is built. That's why people come to us. So again, it's like it's back to that staying in your lane, isn't it? As to
yeah,
we offer this as a coach. We are also bodybuilders. We are also competitive bodybuilders. We will do what we can to get to shows, etc., etc. But it's that two-way thing, isn't it? You're both the clients doing the do, and you're doing the do as well as the coach.
yeah. I think I'm thinking of potentially four very successful coaches in the UK, four that spring to mind. And I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the four I'm thinking of, yes, their coaching business is booming, but they've all taken that step back from competitive bodybuilding. And for me personally, I left the NHS to be more of a professional bodybuilder than I could be with the NHS. And there have been moments where it's like, I'm actually busier than when I was in the NHS.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
I thought this was going to be different. I do. I would say probably for yourself as well. Well, more than likely for yourself as well. I feel like my clients actually like that I pursue bodybuilding to the degree that I do. So I feel like,
Yeah,
and personally, that people say you can't be a good coach if you're a competitive bodybuilder at the same time, and vice versa, and whatever. But again, it's like, why do we need to, why is that a thing? Like, what should we feel bad that we are competitive bodybuilders and coach? And I don't think we should, because the reason we have a smaller amount of clients is because we can do the two at the same time to the degree that we're trying to do.
it's interesting because I've also Megan Cooper have kind of popped up in my head because I was thinking, who's a really good coach, a very successful coach who's still bodybuilding, and the two that spring to mind are Megan Cooper. And I don't know how they do it. I mean, I suppose for me, it's like trying to balance the eval work and the coaching work and my own bodybuilding and actually spending time with Dan, which is normally what suffers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we've adapted. We started training together to make up for that. And it's like phones go to the side. He gets annoyed because I will still track my work. um, but yeah, it's sort of the training together is now part of our time, whereas there have been sessions where we won't talk to each other, and we're just because we're so getting on with it. And it's normally, to be fair, it's normally when we're training legs, and both of us, if we combined our physiques, we'd have two working pairs of knees. Well, one of us would, the other one would have two fuck knees, because our knees are the ones that are fucked up are the opposite to the other person. Um, so normally legs is a very silent session if we're not training together. But since it's kind of been since we got back from Turkey that we've been really making an effort, because it's like, for me, I've got somebody who's stronger and bigger than me. Why am I not utilizing that? Who actually has a lot of knowledge about form and training, but knows my body inside out, so knows why I do things a certain way. Why am I not utilizing it? And it's normally because I get frustrated waiting for him.
Yeah, I feel you.
But he's got better with that, and I've got more patient. It's just, weighing it up.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something that I have to be mindful of, as you know, with spending time with Matt because, clients, podcasts, doing my own training. I could absolutely thrive in that, but the difference is when you've got a partner that you want to be with, not that you feel you
Yeah,
need to be with, you start to realize actually I would quite like to facilitate some time with that person. And again, it comes to that, when you look at bodybuilding and depending on, what scenario you're in yourself, certainly when I've been in unhappy relationships, I want to pursue it more, like
yeah,
obviously, because
yeah,
that makes sense. It's my safety blanket. And then I believe as well the communication around any of these things is super important with you know, I feel like if Matt hadn't have respected my own bodybuilding as much as he had, particularly going into a prep 4 weeks into meeting him and becoming a
yeah,
partnership. Like I was like from the start, and you can imagine, and I've referenced this on the pod before. I was like, when I go into prep, I'm in prep. Like we're a new relationship. You either accept it or you don't. And I was literally like that. It was black and white. Now, probably I could have been a bit nicer around it. However, he respected that. He was like, I've fallen hell over heels for you. You do your thing. I want to support that. What he saw over my prep was my work ethic. What he saw over that was, holy shit. What? What's this person doing? It's how we prep, right? We prep to the nth degree. So the respect was formed, but also what I realized is he put me first that whole fucking prep. Like we're talking 11 months here. Not once did he come and push back. Not once did he
yeah,
question anything. So then you realize, and the reason I describe it like this, you realize back to that example where I said he was having a very bad anxiety period of time. I actually wanted to put him first.
yeah,
Bodybuilding is my everything. However, he's my everything. So I feel like if your partner shows up for you as a bodybuilder, particularly probably in a prep, perhaps that forms a respect that I've just sort of realized there while we're talking about it as well.
yeah, definitely. It's like when Dan and I first got together, we were both in off season. So it was, I mean, before we got together, I was like, I can't eat off plan. I can't eat more than what is on my plan. Like the world might explode. And Dan's like, do you feel snacky? Yeah. Do you want a snack? But I shouldn't. And he's like, no, you should eat something. And again, it was that 2022 off season where things weren't exactly optimal, but I had this massive encouragement to actually eat more, and the growth occurred as a result of it. It's so that it's something to bear in mind. But yeah, I mean, the way Dan was when we started prep and my PTSD symptoms, we'd only been together 6 months, and suddenly I'm in this. Well, it was less than 6 months. Suddenly I'm in this massive anxiety hole that I can't get out of. And, part of what made it worse was being petrified that he was just going to have enough and leave. He didn't. And it's like, that is something that, I will eternally be grateful for him. But again, the weekend when we were at PCA, he was really struggling with his GI. His hiccups had kicked off. And people that sort of know about Dan and his hiccups, when he gets hiccups, they are there more or less 24 hours of the day, and they will last 3 to 4 days. He will hiccup in his sleep. And all this bollocks of drinking water back to front, holding your breath, it does not work because the trigger is like GI inflammation, we think.
Okay.
Um, and he'll be there fast asleep, hiccuping. He had his first episode the day we left for Turkey, which lasted 3 days. This episode just lasted two, but it really puts him in such a difficult headspace because you can imagine it's like you're 200, I don't know what he is right now, but 270 odd pounds of muscle constantly contracting with the hiccups. Like, how exhausting is that?
For sure. Mm.
And like the whole bed moves. And he's there worrying that I'm not going to be able to sleep. And it's like, yeah, all right, so the bed's moving, but we've got a Super King. So if I push him over right over the side and I get over the other side, I can't hear it, I can't feel it. Worst case scenario, I get on the sofa. But I just think how fucking exhausting it must be. And like, he can't talk a sentence because he's the whole time. So trying to do check-ins, trying to like, I didn't even bother ringing him when we left PCA because I knew he wouldn't want to talk on the phone. Normally, if I'm leaving an event, the first thing I do when I get in the car is give him a call. But I just thought he won't want that.
Yeah.
It's debilitating.
It's the flip-flop effect of being there for one another when you need it, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
We've spoken about this with friendship as well. It's like one of you could be tanked, one of you could be in a really bad spot, so the other one could potentially top, obviously it's different with an intimate relationship because you're living together, whatever. But potentially that your person, friend, could top that up a bit. So, you're
yeah.
running 20% here. Fucking hell, you speak, you meet up, whatever. Maybe you're at 50% or whatever. There's a flip-flop effect of when one of you is suffering with something, the other one shows up, and vice versa. If you're both suffering, you come together and do your best to, you know.
It's something I heard on another podcast once. Was this a secret to a successful marriage is having that conversation, right? How much do you have today? Well, I'm
Yes.
at 30%. Well, I'm at 70%. So, and Dan and I will, we don't do it around percentage and we do it around time. So it's like, how much time have you got today? Well, I'm Ramo. Okay, well, don't worry about the washing up. Don't worry about walking the dogs. I'll sort that. And then it goes the other way. I mean, admittedly, at the moment, it's more Dan picking up than me. I'm fucking rammed all the time.
But again, it's like that can be sort of seasonal, as it were. And sometimes I'll be busier or Matt will be busier. Maybe there's like a push for something. And like when I was making the ebook, I was like, I can't. I've got no time. Like every moment is
Yeah,
going. So like you say, it would be the washing up. Today he's on a shift, so I will clean the house, do the washing up, get the food done, do my normal things. And we have that sort of we take turns, as it were. And as you say, it's like
yeah,
what does the day look like for you today? But also, I feel like it's really helpful because we're both coaches, like you and Dan, like that
yeah.
show where I had my client competing and I had that sickness and diarrhea and everything. Oh my God. So Matt could, all my clients know Matt, I'm sure you have the same with Dan. So I'm like, I'll do the baseline decisions, but Matt's just going to do the little pump up with you. And you
Yeah,
sort of, and it's like,
support, emotional support, man.
yeah. Well, we've said this before is as coaches, it's important for us to have our people as well. And as if you're the client, so for sure, it's both angles. But I feel like we've actually sprung on some things that we haven't spoken about before, which is super cool.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Ramble.
I can't actually remember. I'm so tired.
Do
What
you-
did I just say?
you're gonna have your sleep supplements tonight. Obviously, we've
Oh God, yeah.
got
And
competitive.
Dan's away, so I'll be getting into bed at like 8 o'clock.
I love it. Before we wrap up, we just have to say congratulations to Armana for getting engaged in Turkey.
I didn't do anything. I sat there. But yeah,
Oh,
that happened.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we did good.
Yeah. Wedding plans are commencing, but guys, it's top secret, so we'll leave it there. But thank you, of course, for
It's top secret because we haven't decided what we're doing yet.
we just pretend that there's this like massive secret, man, and like we've got a secret on the cars.
People, if it's anything like the questions I've had since getting engaged, people think I'm pregnant if we start talking about secrets. That is so never happening.
We
So
don't.
never happening. I've never had so many people ask about children.
Have you?
It's,
Oh,
I think it's kind of rude, actually, if I'm honest.
for
And I'm
sure.
not, these aren't people
Yeah.
that are close. These are like either people I work with through Eval or like my random Thai masseuse. She was asking me, just things like that. Yeah, I just think it's a bit presumptuous to go
I do.
like, oh,
It's a societal norm again. It's like this.
yeah.
That's the next thing, isn't it? It's like, no, it's not.
Well, it's like I'm 40. Even if I wasn't a bodybuilder, no, no. There's a reason I'm 40 and childless. It's through choice.
You've got two dogs and Dan. That's enough.
Yeah,
I love
yeah. Speaking of which, one of them is full on, I don't know, avocado mode under my desk.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, of course, for your time today, and we will speak real soon.
Well, yeah, yeah. No worries.
Rambles are back.
Laters.
Bye.